time. So in 7th grade, I had this teacher that everyone absolutely hated. She was an older white lady around her mid-60s, and she was the worst teacher I've ever had. Literally from day one, she was just overall not a good teacher. Anytime someone would ask her for help, she wouldn't help us, and she would get mad whenever people couldn't find the answers. Whenever we couldn't find the answers, she would always say the same things. She would say things like, it should be in the books, or really you guys can't find it yourselves. And she never actually taught anything either. She would just hand us work on topics that we knew nothing about. So of course, students would talk back to her often, but it was always after she disrespected the students first. And then after, she would start crying in the classroom, and she would say that nobody had any respect for her. And then she would go on to say that she was old and that she couldn't handle this anymore. And apparently we were also really mean, but so was she. So eventually everyone in the classroom agreed that we weren't going to let this teacher disrespect us anymore without telling her something back. Just kind of figured that just because you're old doesn't mean you automatically gain our respect. So if she disrespected any of us, we would stand up for ourselves. And this one day in class, this was the very first time that I ever talked back to a teacher. The reason I went off on her was because she would always come around me and she would rub my back in a really odd way that always made me really uncomfortable. Like, why were you touching me? So when she touched my back, I was like, stop. And she got mad and she was like, I'm only showing you that you're a good student. I'm trying to make you feel better. After that, we started arguing, and after going back and forth for a while, she ended up writing me up. And she said the reason I was written up was because of arguing and disrespect, which got me detention for a week, but I was somewhat happy about it because I had detention during her class, which meant I didn't have to deal with her for an entire week. Now, I go to a predominantly African-American school, and being that I was one out of the 3 white kids in her class, I think she favored me for just that reason. Another time, I ended up getting detention after I got into an argument with her while she was getting mad at my best friend for something that she didn't even do. I would also hear from other friends in different classes that she would cuss them out for asking simple questions, and eventually it got super out of hand. It got to the point where she started calling our classmates racial slurs. So like I said, she would cuss them out for asking simple questions, and eventually it got super out of hand to the point where she was calling people racial slurs. This happened to someone that wasn't in my class, but word got around, and eventually it reached the principal that she had called someone the N-word. And just to let you guys know, my principal was also black, so he did not let it slide at all. I'm 100% sure that she got fired after that because one day she just disappeared and she never came back. And this one time a student asked another teacher where she went, and they were just like, oh, she's just on vacation right now. But she never came back, so that was definitely a cover-up. But I've genuinely never hated another teacher more than her, and reminder, this was only in 7th grade. Looking back at it now, it's so crazy to me that a grown woman was getting into arguments with 7th graders and then crying because we were supposedly really mean.
Here's the story of my 6-year-long stalker that literally stalked me for 6 years of my life. I guess he probably would have stalked me way longer, but he's, so, you know, R.I.P. I guess. I really don't know. You traumatized me, so. When I was 17, I got a message on Instagram, and it was from this guy who literally looked just like Tupac, like looked like an impersonator. And let's just call said Tupac impersonator Carl. Carl messaged me and was like, you are so beautiful, let me take you out to dinner. Of course, my 17-year-old self was like, period, Tupac. Yes, you can take me out to dinner. I'm being swept off my feet. Wait, was that a mistake? That was quite the mistake. I asked him how old he is, and he's like, I'm 19, and I'm like, perfect, I'm 17. He's probably so mature. Like, he's probably so mature. So a couple days later, he picks me up in a brand new Altima, and I'm just like, what 19-year-old has a brand spanking new Altima? I don't know one. At this point, I was like, is Tupac alive? Is Tupac alive? When I tell you I was expecting to go to like a McDonald's, no. We went to a steakhouse. At this point, I'm kind of like confused because he looks his age. He looks 19, but he's spending money like he's in his mid-20s. So during the date, he tells me that he only pays for dates if he ends up liking the girl a lot. So I take this as a challenge because I have $12 to my name at this point, and I'm like, he needs to like me because this place is expensive. Baby, I'm pulling out the bells and the whistles. Tell me about your trauma. Tell me about your ex-girlfriends. Tell me about your life. How's your mom? Everything I can think of. Hey babe, well, he liked me too much, all right? So he paid for the date, and then he proceeded to take me to Sonic, and we got the grossest milkshake I've ever tried in my entire life. We're waiting for that disgusting milkshake in the drive-thru. He starts telling me about the last date he went on with the last girl he went on a date with, and let's call her Maria. Start to realize that I go to school with Maria. I know who Maria is. Not only do I know who Maria is, but she's like in my inner group of friends. So like I hang out with her pretty frequently. After this like 3-hour-long date, he finally takes me home, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to ask Maria about Carl when I go to school tomorrow. Like, I need to know why he didn't pay for their date. What happened? She's so cool. Like, what happened? Next day at school, I go up to her at lunch, and I'm like, yo, you went on a date with Carl? And she's like, Carl? And I was like, yeah, Tupac Carl, like, what about it? She's like, please tell me you didn't go on a date with him. And I'm like, yeah, I did. He took me to the steakhouse. She's like, well, on the day I found out that he was actually 24. At this point, I'm doing the math in my head, like, how old would Tupac be right now? And obviously it's not 24, so we were good. Like, yeah, and I also found out that he has a girlfriend. After we were done with the date, the girlfriend reached out to me, and I was like, oh, awesome. So not only is he a creep, but he also has a girlfriend. Really not. Obviously, I text him, and I'm like, you're literally a liar and a creep. Why would you lie about your age? And also you have a girlfriend. And then I just blocked him. You probably would think that would be the end of that, but it absolutely was not. I'm definitely gonna need a part 2, I'm so sorry. 2 of the story of my 6-year-long stalker. Let's do this. After I block his number, he makes like 6 fake numbers being like, please let me explain, please let let me explain. Like, I swear to God I didn't lie to you. Blah, blah, blah. I'm blocking like number after number after number. So he resorts to Instagram, obviously. I had this like obsession with Bart Simpson, which is a key player in this story. So remember that. Why are you obsessed with Bart Simpson? That is literally so random and weird. When I get home from school that day, I get home and there's flowers on my aunt's porch for me. And I'm like, oh my God, this man knows where I live. So I unblock his number and I'm like, do not ever come to my house again. Don't ever leave me flowers. Like, we are not friends. You're a creep. Immediately reblock his number because I'm just not interested in even hearing what he has to say. Doesn't he show up at my aunt's house later that night and come knocking on the door? And just my luck, no one but me is home. I go up to the door. What is wrong with you? You're so creepy. Like, this is so weird. And he's like, please, 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 like, let me just explain. Let me just explain. And he goes on to tell me that he has a developmental issue that makes him look so young. And he was just embarrassed to tell me his real age because he looks so young. It's like, the girlfriend that I had isn't my girlfriend anymore. She just tells people that she's my girlfriend because she's crazy. And I'm not with her. I haven't been with her in years. And I'm just like, I think I've heard this all before. I'm just like, okay, that's cool and good, but I still don't want to talk to you. Like, my aunt and my mother would not be very cool with me dating someone almost 10 years older than me. I'm not cool with it. Like, I just don't, you lied about it. That's so weird. So he finally leaves after having his literal temper tantrum, and he stays blocked on everything. Like, I am not unblocking this man for the life of me. So things are quiet for about a week after that, and then I start getting messages and likes on my Instagram from this weird account that has 2 followers, and the picture is of Bart Simpson. I know who this is. I immediately know who it is and block him. And then he makes another one. And he does it again. This cycle literally continues for years. Like, I would block a Bart Simpson account and then another one would follow me. I would block it and another one would follow me and another one would message me. It's like, it was insane. Every year without fail, I would get the happy birthday message from a Bart Simpson account and then a happy Christmas message. It was just ridiculous. My 21st birthday was during COVID, so I couldn't go out and like drink on my 21st because it was like everything was shut down. So whenever COVID like reopened and everything was reopened, me and my friend decided to go to the bar. At this point, things had slowed down. I honestly had thought he was done. Like, I was like, he's not stalking me anymore. So, to my dismay, I was wrong. Posting on our stories and having fun, and then don't you know, ends up showing up to the bar I'm at and just standing there and staring at me. We leave because I was terrified, and I go to my Instagram immediately because I know he probably messaged me. And he did, and he was like, I saw you and you looked beautiful. I said some choice words, a lot of stuff, and I think he finally got it. Finally, said ex-girlfriend reaches out to me. And she's like, he does this to everyone. I've heard this so many times. I'm like, great. Then a few months later, he died of a heart attack.
Am I wrong for getting a hotel room for my daughter entirely for herself after her stepsisters made her sleep on the floor? My dad passed away 2 weeks ago. Me, my wife Candace, and my daughter 16, Shiloh, and her stepsisters 19 and 17 flew to my hometown to attend the funeral. After that, we got 2 hotel rooms, one for me and Candace and one for the girls. While I was in the room, I got a call from Shiloh at 11 p.m. crying and sounded like she was arguing with her stepsisters. I asked her what the matter was, and she told me that her stepsisters insisted that she sleep on the floor. There was one large bed in the room and there was enough space for all 3 girls to sleep on. I asked why and she said she didn't know. I went to see what the issue was and talk with my stepdaughters about it. They kept talking but didn't really explain why they told her to sleep on the floor. They just shrugged and said, it's better this way, we're more comfortable this way. I told Shiloh to grab her things, and when one of my stepdaughters asked where we were going, I told her I was booking her a hotel room. Both looked upset but didn't say anything, but they must have called their mom because she was awake when I got back and started arguing with me about giving Shiloh an entire hotel room for herself. I explained why I did it, but she said I wasted money and that Shiloh could have sucked it up for one night on the floor. I called her unreasonable for this, but she told me I showed the girls that I'm playing favorites and made my stepdaughter share a room while I gave my daughter the entire room for herself. We went home and Candace is still breaking up saying I mishandled this. She even pointed out how my stepdaughters are upset since they're not speaking to me. Edit. It was Candace who got a room for all 3 girls as to not stir any drama and save money. She was in charge of hotel reservations since I was emotionally distressed. Also, Candace did not expect Shiloh to sleep on the floor. She wanted all 3 girls to share the bed.